Hey guys, I'm John Setzler. Welcome back to Atlanta Grill Company for another short video. Since we're wrapping up our pizza series this week, I'm going to give you another video recipe here for my second pizza sauce. I've put a pizza sauce video up here before that I'm going to give you a link to in the video description. This is very similar to that sauce, but this is a cooked sauce using basically the same ingredients. This sauce actually becomes more of a New York style sauce, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do to make my homemade pizza sauce is I'm going to get my blender out, and we're going to start with San Marzano tomatoes. I always recommend using the best quality tomatoes you can find. These tomatoes are whole tomatoes, and this is a 28-ounce can. If you want to use crushed tomatoes, you can, but I'm going to show you a procedure here. What I'm going to do is I've got my spider out here. I'm going to pour in some of the liquid off of these tomatoes into my blender. I'm just going to pour in enough to get this process started. That's going to be about maybe a half a cup. And if you're using crushed tomatoes instead, just put about a half to maybe 2/3 of a cup. What I'm trying to do is get enough tomato in my blender here to get the first part of these ingredients pureed, but I don't want to puree the tomatoes completely. So now that I have that in there, I'm going to add, I've got 1 clove of garlic. I've got about a tablespoon here of extra virgin olive oil. I've got a half a teaspoon of kosher salt. I've got a tablespoon of sugar. I've got 1/4 of a teaspoon of dried basil, 1/4 of a teaspoon of dried oregano, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. So I'm just going to put my lid on here, and we're going to pulse that to get that pureed. And the objective there is just basically to get that garlic minced up finely. So now I'm going to open the blender back, and I am going to dump that entire can of San Marzano tomatoes in here. I'm going to put the lid back on, and we're just going to pulse that a few times. And like I said here, if you're using crushed tomatoes and an extremely finely minced garlic, you can skip the part here with the blender, but I'm just going to pulse this just a few times. Okay, that's all I want on that. So now we're going to put it in a saucepan. So I've got my saucepan in place. I'm just going to dump this in here, and I'm going to turn this on medium heat and bring this up to a simmer. Once this comes up to a simmer, I'm going to back the heat down, and we're going to let that simmer uncovered for about 15 or 20 minutes. And I've let this simmer here for about 20 minutes. It's reduced a little bit. You don't want to thicken this up too terribly much. So I'm going to take this off the heat. We're going to let it cool for a few minutes. And after I've given that a few minutes to cool a little bit, I've just tossed this in a couple of mason jars. This makes about 3 cups, so this makes enough for quite a few pizzas. And this stuff will keep for a week to 10 days in the refrigerator. So if you don't use it, I wouldn't keep it much longer than that. But if you don't use it on pizza, go ahead and use it on some pasta. Until next time, this is John Setzler with Atlanta Grill Company.